I recently talked about how I made a pretty large purchase in this market, and the large purchase was actually Axelar. Now, when it comes to this project, why did I buy Axelar out of all of the other cryptocurrencies I could have bought? Well, it's because a lot of the altcoin market is already pumped up in a big way. Axelar is one that has barely moved in the last year, and even if we look at the all-time chart, it has barely budged at all compared to its high back in 2024. We are still trading at levels that we witnessed back in November of 2023. And on the all-time chart, we're down 47.42% compared to the 1 year that's also down 33%. Some altcoins on the 1 year are up 200, 300, 400 plus percent. So when we think about Axelar, I mean, this thing is cooked. So it allows us to actually get in on a incredible level around major significant demand on the macro. And it's also a project that's working with some of the most, I would say most developed networks out there and actually helping them scale, which we'll also go over in this video. But there's a lot of things happening behind Axelar that's being tracked incorrectly. For an example, TVL. I'm actually going to go over that as well because even right now, if you look at my screen, TVL on CoinMarketCap is saying $337 million. This is extremely off. We're actually going to address that, and we're also going to be addressing the supply because in my previous video that I was talking about Axelar, someone did say I would like to know more about the supply because in that video, we talked about the burn mechanism. And yes, there is a burn mechanism in play around Axel, which we'll go over. But let's actually start off real quick with the price chart because I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time. So things are definitely going to change. But we're more so looking at this thing on the weekly. We are about 2 days and 14 hours away from the weekly candle close. By the time that this does go live, we'll probably be closer to about like 2 days. Until this, officially closes out the weekly candle. The main thing that I'm actually looking at here, right, is obviously breaking above this trend line. That would be a great start, but I want to see if we can close the week out above 43 and almost like 43 and a half cents, right? We want to see a big break over these levels from June, and then from that point, we could actually start to see a nice break to the upside. And that break to the upside, realistically speaking, what I'm really watching for is us to clear out macro resistance levels. So from this big break, what I mainly want to see is the next target, obviously clearing this wick, but then targeting the highs back here from February of 2023. That will actually allow us to retest the high from December, which is around $1.15, and then we could target those highs from February of 2024. Which is all the way around $2.71.5. The upside from our current level, just from our current level to that high from 2024 is over 500 plus percent. And no, I don't believe that we stop there because I do think that once we get into price discovery, we could easily 10x from even our current levels. I would be very happy seeing a $5 Axelar by the end of this cycle. And I know that that's not me asking for a lot. That would be about 1,070% of a move from our current level. And a $5 Axelar in terms of the market cap would be about roughly a $5 billion market cap. And I think that that's pretty, I feel like that's so conservative for a project this size. We could easily go much higher. I wouldn't be surprised if we did, but we'll have to see exactly how much demand there is for Axelar and what happens going forward. But I do think that this is a project that has tremendous upside potential considering the names that they are working with and what they are doing for this space. So the overall chart here still looking very good. Looks like it's on the brink of a much larger breakout and a big confirmation on the weekly as well. I've been buying around this demand zone down here in the blue. If you guys are in the Discord, then you already know that. The reason why is because this is, those lows back in 2023, right before we went crazy to almost $3 back in 2024. So this is all major lows, major demand, and yeah, this is where I'm very happy about, buying Axelar at. Now, would I be buying today at about 40 some cents? I still think that there's a tremendous opportunity here, even around 40 cents, because like I said, Axelar is still down plenty on the 1 year and even on the all-time chart. It's not like we're going crazy and ripping like 100% or anything like that. No, we're still down. The price action is still boring. And the overall chart here on the macro, I mean, guys, we're still at those massive lows from 2023. So, it's not like you're buying at a crazy high or anything like that. So I would be a buyer all day at anything under 50 cents, in my opinion, because I do think that we could 10x from where we currently are trading at. Now, let's actually talk about a few things. Number one, let's address tokenomics, because like I said, I quickly went over it in the previous video on Axelar, and there was a few questions. Well, the tokenomics changed with the Cobalt upgrade. So AXL is the only utility token powering a mature decentralized interoperability protocol. We have Cobalt makes Axelar scalable by design. New chains acquire AXL to join the network. That AXL is locked in the amplifier reward pool, creating long-term alignment, not sell pressure. Every cross-chain transaction pays AXL gas fees, and Cobalt burns them forever. That means more use equals more burn equals less supply. It's a self-sustaining flywheel for AXL utility. Cobalt's amplifier pool doesn't just lock AXL, it distributes rewards to the verifiers who secure new connections. More integrations equals more rewards equals more scalability. Now, they do fully break this down, and I'm actually going to go over it here in a second. But I also want to just share the diagram here that they did give us. This is exactly how the token mechanics work. This is from February of this year. This is when it actually changed. We have new chains acquire AXL, which is locked in the AXL reward pool, which you guys can see on the right side. You have the native tokens on the left side as well. And then you also have the upcoming chains, which we already know a lot of them went live. You have the AXL gas fees, the burn address. Then we have on the right side, AXL is distributed among verifiers. And then you have those interchain verifiers as well. Now, this is the metrics. So early metrics on AXL reward pools and gas fee burns. We have recent connections with Sui and Flow are currently locking more than 300,000 AXL in verifier reward pools per month. All future blockchain integrations will be secured using interchain amplifier and this reward pool mechanism. The current list of major blockchains set to integrate via amplifier includes Monad, Solana, Stellar, Ton, XRP Ledger, and dozens of layer 2s and application-specific blockchains that will be announced in the future. Now, we already know that a lot of these have already been announced. They're already actually live. But what's crazy about this is, yeah, we can actually track the burning mechanism. Now, so far, listen, it's not creating a massive amount of demand just yet, to the point where, like, for example, there's a huge supply getting burned and we're in deflationary tokenomics. But I do think that we will get to deflationary tokenomics as more and more demand is created for the Axelar network. They do go and break down a few things here. Number one, 98% of AXL transaction fees are burned, while 2% are transferred to a community pool. And again, they did mention all of the new blockchain connections here as well. But we could see the historical data from the past month. This is from June 25th to July 25th. The supply changed. There was about 3.3 million added to the supply in terms of AXL. Burned only about 16,000. AXL locked for verifier incentives about 843,511, and the current inflation rate is about 3.8%. And again, it's not like a crazy amount, but again, this is something to keep a close eye on, because we have been starting to see the overall amount being burned starting to increase more and more. But again, it's not to the point where we are seeing, for an example, the supply change being targeted from the amount being burned, because only 664,000 was burned while we added 50 million to the supply. But going forward, there's not going to be much of a significant amount of token unlocks or anything like that, which we also went over in the previous videos. For an example, this is what the token unlocks look like. This is about 1.12% of the supply. It's about 13.5 million per month going forward. Again, it's nothing too crazy compared to the actual supply here, but the burn mechanism definitely does help to kind of offset that a bit, even if it is just a little bit here and there. So as more and more demand is created for Axelar, this amount will actually increase. We'll definitely keep a close eye on this over time. But this is still a great way to, really kind of change up the tokenomics. And this was actually voted on by the community. Now, we also do see Axelar is the only interoperability protocol, with a utility token. Axelar network is capable of connecting all blockchains with the most distributed and robust liveness and security guarantee available. Unlike competitors, Axelar has no closed source or custodial components. Instead, it is built on a public blockchain, Axelar, with a dynamic set of validators running proof of stake consensus incentivized by the AXL token. And this is where we can start to see, a whole world being created because of what Axelar is providing. Now, I do want to go over to the metrics here and just kind of share with you guys a few things. So in the beginning of this video, what I said was a lot of the TVL that's being tracked around Axelar is incorrect. Right now, there's about $337 million in terms of TVL that's being tracked, right? Well, if we actually look at the Axelar scan, this is the cross-chain activity. $1.3 billion is actually locked. 1.08 billion alone is coming from the ITS. And if you guys don't know, this is from that interchain token service. So that's what I'm actually focused on with Axelar, is the amount that's being tracked on these, platforms compared to what we know of the network. Because if we look at this metric, right, just going off of this $1.3 billion, that's far more than the market cap and even the fully diluted value of Axelar just from TVO alone. TVO alone is telling us that Axelar is actually undervalued. But they already have so much happening around the network. We could see that there's 81 chains connected. We could track everything happening on, Axelar just from this screen alone. We could see all of the connected blockchains. We could see the volume as well. The volume is nearing $12 billion on Axelar alone. And I've been tracking the TVL of all of the chains as well. And if we're going off of the $1.3 billion, technically speaking, Axelar would be in the number 11th space, flipping Polygon. And all of these other projects here, listen, a lot of these projects are at significant market caps compared to where Axelar is actually sitting. But again, when I look at some of these platforms like DeFi Llama and how they're tracking this, there's 3 different, areas in which they're tracking Axelar. And it doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like it should all be bunched together and we should have, all of this tracked, and Axelar should be at the number 11 spot here. It makes no sense to me, but there's so much money tied to Axelar and the market cap is so small compared to the amount that's locked on the platform. But on top of all of this, right, the network usage. So I have been following the network usage over the last couple, weeks. And if we actually look at this, like I said, in terms of the demand for Axelar, I do think that we're probably going to start to see a lot more demand around the network. We could actually focus on this in terms of like the last 7 days, for an example. And if we look at the last 7 days, there's been about 22,500 plus transactions. Now you might be saying, all right, well, that's pretty low, right? Well, not technically, because if we actually look at the volume, and this is the transfer volume by day as well, we could see that some days there's a massive amount of volume that's transacted on Axelar. Currently speaking, almost $100 million in a single week. We could also track the volume by chains here, and we could see, how much transactions are moving between these networks. Now, if we actually look at the last 30 days as well, and again, all of this is extremely transparent. You guys can track this on their Axelar scan. We could see in the last 30 days, 83,000 plus transactions, almost $320 million. And we could see, again, between all of the networks here, we start to see the XRP Ledger EVM and even the XRP-L, really kind of show up here in a big way. But, for the most part, we're starting to see the network being utilized in a big way from some of these very top tier exchanges, or I shouldn't say exchanges, networks and chains. And this is showing us that demand is rising around, Axelar. And again, this is a project that is at the number 139 spot, sub $500 million in market cap. and extremely overlooked. We talked about Axelar back in 2024, right? Axelar became a big name back in 2024, and it really kind of came up on my timeline in a big way because of the connections back to the XRPL, right? That's when Ripple and Axelar Foundation partnered to enhance XRP ledgers interoperability across blockchains. Axelar is providing significant tools for these types of networks that, lack interoperability. And it's not just the XRP ledger, and it's not just XRP. It's also, even Stellar, for an example, which we'll go over here in a second. But, we also think about the XRP ledger EVM sidechain. This is also a big deal. And it's also a part of this move from 2024. These two go hand in hand. But then we look at Stellar. And this is actually around stablecoins. This is cross-border retail payments via Axelar and Stellar. These two are actually working together to provide interoperability of stablecoins with all other networks. We can actually see the cross-border retail payments via Axelar and Stellar. Number one, Axelar provides a secure connection to Stellar. User holding stablecoins on any supported blockchain can interact with retail payments. This also includes private blockchains. Stellar's network of anchors provides transfer points that convert on-chain assets like stablecoins into fiat currency. And then payment in retailers' preferred method, including bank transfer, on-chain stablecoin transaction, or cash money order. We could see how all of this works. This is actually opening up the door to a bigger overall economy based around stablecoins, and it's allowing all of those connections between, private and even public chains to banks, crypto exchanges, money transfer operators. And this is how we can actually start to see the stablecoin market really wake up. What we're starting to see here with Axelar is just, it's something that I feel is so crucial for the Web3 future, for the stablecoin boom, for these public networks to actually be interconnected, not just between other networks, but also with key pieces of the traditional financial world as well. What Axelar is, it's not just based around blockchain interoperability. It's actually opening up the doors for these public blockchains that really lacked interoperability, and it's providing that key tolling for them. I go back to the XRP ledger because, the XRP ledger was in need of something like this. The XRP ledger EVM sidechain unlocks so much for XRP, and without, players like Axelar, this would not be possible. And we even go back to 2024 with that announcement. This is when we really started to see, the DeFi side of the XRP ledger opening up in a big way. 2024 was also the time where we started to see the AMM become a reality and things like that. But, what Axelar is doing and providing for these networks, and these are massive players, by the way, like, XRP has a market cap of 200 billion, or did at least. XLM has a 10 billion plus market cap. Axelar is just sitting here under a $500 million market cap. Even fully diluted value of 520 million is still extremely cheap for a project like this. It's so overlooked. It's so undervalued. I just don't see how this isn't becoming, like a massive player in the space. And if we think about how high Axelar could be on the list by the end of this cycle, I'm really kind of looking at, like, if we're thinking about a $5 billion market cap for Axelar by the end of the cycle, and again, I'm not going off of fully diluted value, a $5 billion market cap would put it at like almost number 28. Guys, Pepe has almost $2 billion market cap. BitGet, an exchange token, has $5.3 billion in market cap. I don't think that it's crazy to think that Axelar can 10x from here and hit a market cap like this, even going off of fully diluted value, $5.2 billion. I mean, it's right around this range. I think that Axelar could easily jump into the top 20, and we're talking about an $8 billion market cap here. This is why I think that Axelar is so undervalued and so overlooked, and the ROI is extremely high for this project. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, to notifications on because I'm on free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.